afternoon, Mr. McKeague, Ms. Sumter Winbush, family members, our supportive local veterans, and fellow members of DPAA, thank you all for being here. I'm Sergeant First Class Sean Everette from our Outreach Communications Directorate, and I'll be the narrator for today's event. This morning, we will unveil a POW MIA Chair of Honor, but before we go any further, as is appropriate on Flag Day, will you please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. Today we have gathered unified in our belief that every unaccounted for U.S. service member and civilian from our past wars and conflicts should never be forgotten. We believe these men and women who paid such a heavy price for the cause of freedom deserve to be returned with honor to the country who put them in harm's way. There are currently over 81,700 unaccounted for Americans from our nation's past conflicts. Although many have been deemed non-recoverable, their sacrifice is nonetheless important. From World War II, there are 72,472. From Korea, there are 7,558. From the Vietnam War, there are 1,584. From the Cold War, there are 126, and there are 6 from the Gulf Wars. Today, we are here to honor their memory and sacrifice. I would now like to introduce our distinguished guests. Captain Ralph Galati, a former Vietnam POW. Ms. Colleen Shine from the National League of Families, also daughter of Air Force Colonel Anthony Shine, who was accounted for in 1996. Mr. Wade Ishimoto from the Special Forces Association and Special Ops Association. Mr. Justin Hart from the Disabled American Veterans. Ms. Sharon Hodge from the Vietnam Veterans Association. Mr. Joe Griffiths, a Vietnam veteran and host of the Welcome Home Veterans Talk Show. And Mr. Patrick Hughes from Rolling Thunder. Thank you all for coming today. At this time, I would like to welcome DPAA's Director, Mr. Kelly McKeague, to provide his remarks.
Distinguished guests, we are very honored to have you participate with us in this very auspicious occasion. Whenever enemies of freedom threaten our liberties, millions of Americans answer the call to duty. So with this chair, we are going to honor a special group of those who answered the call to duty. First, there are a number of prisoners of war who suffered inconceivable hardships and yet, with resilience, with courage, with faith, returned to the United States with honor. Ralph Galati knows that firsthand. There are also tens of thousands of service members who made the supreme sacrifice and yet who have not returned home. Their families not only endured the void of loss, but also the uncertainty associated with that loss. Colleen Shine knows that firsthand. Probably the most ubiquitous manifestation of this nation's steadfast commitment to its POWs and MIAs is the iconic black and white POW MIA flag. Originally it was, as Colleen knows, the symbol of the National League of Families of POWs and MIAs. But it's since become this nation's emblematic commitment to its POWs and MIAs. In law, this flag now flies every day under the U.S. flag in federal facilities all throughout the world. The chair of honor that we will unveil today is also a special manifestation of this nation's commitment to its POWs and MIAs. It sits in professional and college stadiums, in small town halls, in the U.S. Capitol. Perpetually, it remains empty for a reason, to convey to anyone who sees it that that chair will remain open and someday be filled. We honor our POWs and MIAs, and it's something that this nation, again, as I tell people, it defines us as a nation, that the values we have in honoring our POWs as well as the MIAs and their families are represented in this chair, in the flag, in that ubiquitous silhouette whose words are so timeless and poignant. You are not forgotten. Thank you for joining us today. You know, we thought it was appropriate that if anybody should have and display the POW MIA Chair of Honor, it ought to be the organization charged with fulfilling this nation's commitment. So we have a chair in our laboratory in Omaha, Nebraska. We have one at our facility in Honolulu, Hawaii. And finally, thank you, COVID, we're able to unveil the Chair of Honor here in our Washington headquarters. May God's grace continue to be on all that this chair honors, our POWs, our MIAs, as well as their families. God bless you all.
Thank you, sir. I would now like to invite Ms. Shine and Captain Galati to come forward to unveil the POW MIA Chair of Honor. The placard which accompanies the chair reads, "This chair remains empty in honor of those brave Americans who remain missing from past conflicts. It is a stark reminder of the supreme sacrifice they made, their families who grieved for them, and DPAA's steadfast and resolute commitment to our nation's effort to provide the fullest possible accounting." I would now like to invite Ms. Shine to make a few comments about what this POW MIA chair means to her.
Thank you, Kelly. Those were perfect remarks. Thanks so much for inviting the National League of POW families to be a part of this and for me to have an opportunity to share some personal words. You said 45 minutes, right? Keep it to that.
We serve you, Colleen.
You've heard the story of a young boy walking on the beach, picking up the starfish that had washed ashore and tossing them back into the sea. An old man watching him comments, "There are more starfish than you can ever save. You'll never make a difference," he says. But the child bends down, picks up another starfish, and tosses it back into the ocean. "I made a difference to that one," he says. To me, the iconic POWMIA flag and logo is much the same. It's a reminder that each person who serves is important, and that one by one, as we do the challenging work of resolving their cases, we're in fact making a difference to that one. I was 7 years old when the POWMIA flag first became important to me. A family friend, a fighter pilot buddy of my dad's, was a POW in the Hanoi Hilton, and I wore a POW bracelet and passed out bumper stickers on the playground of my elementary school. I wanted to ensure that Captain Seahorn was not forgotten. A year later, when my dad's A7 disappeared over the border of North Vietnam and Laos, I donned a second POWMIA bracelet, one I would wear for nearly 24 years. While Captain Seahorn thankfully came home in Operation Homecoming at the end of the Vietnam War, an empty chair is exactly what we had at our table. My mother didn't know for certain whether she was a wife or a widow, and we kids didn't know if my dad would ever come home. It's that uncertainty Kelly talked about, and it is indeed a burden. In 1996, thanks to the grace of God and the efforts of many, our family gained the peace of mind and heart that comes with knowing the fate of a missing loved one. Finally, though it wasn't what we had hoped for, we had a truth to face and move forward from. As Secretary Austin said in his recent visit to DPAA in Hawaii, this issue isn't only about bringing answers home to families. It's also about providing confidence to those who serve in the fight today. No doubt you and DPAA have a profound impact on the business of our nation's national defense. You work to achieve the fullest possible accounting of our nation's unreturned veterans, and that is noble. It's a noble imperative, a moral obligation, one America cares about and is watching. I hope that in seeing me here today, you are reminded of the hard work of gaining answers and knowing that it is worthwhile, and that case by case, family by family, you're making a difference. May this POWMIA Chair of Honor forever remind all of your noble mission and the difference it makes to those who served and serve our nation and to their families. And may it inspire each of us to renew our commitment to an honorable accounting, past, present, and future. Thank you.
Thank you. A weapons system officer in the F-4 Phantom Fighter, Captain Ralph Galati was assigned to Ubon Royal Thai Air Force Base in Thailand in the fall of 1971. On February 16th, 1972, he was on his 69th mission in just 90 days when he and his pilot were shot down over North Vietnam. He was immediately captured and taken to the Hanoi Hilton. He spent the next 14 months as a prisoner of war, enduring weeks of solitary confinement, beatings, a meager diet, and the uncertainty of never knowing which day might be his last. At this time, I would like to invite Captain Galati to make a few comments about what this chair means to you.
I'm the luckiest guy in the room today. I'm happy to be alive. Thanks for inviting us. I noticed you didn't invite us to do the dedication in Hawaii.
Blame Jim Hickerson. He told you, he said he's got that covered.
I'm forgiven. Yes. Two messages. I've been blessed in the last 10 years or so to dedicate about 20 of these chairs in all the places you talked about, civic centers and college campuses. I follow Patrick around, who's done over 100 in the area. And the message is the same for them, and I try to always call out DPAA to let people know that there's an agency who's committed to help resolve family issues, and that there are still 80,000 plus missing, and that you're not forgetting, and that your passion and diligence is there to help bring a full accounting to them and their families. And 80,000 missing means 80,000 families that still have unresolved issues. So and I'm proud to represent that. The other message that I have is I was shot down at the very end of the war in 1972. So when I was in college in ROTC, I knew about the POW situation, just the beginnings of the POW flag, the beginning of the POW bracelet campaign. Now fast forward 2 years, and now I am in the Hanoi Hilton. And once we were able to communicate with the guys that have been there, so 14 months, the guy that was there the longest was Everette Alvarez, who was there 8.5 years. Matter of fact, I was with Seahorn in the Hanoi Hilton. We had a lot of things to talk about with them. They wanted updates about what was going on in the States, because for many of them, they didn't have any new intelligence since 1968. So we had to tell them about the lunar landing. We had to tell them who was president. We had to tell them about the British invasion of music. I mean, you name it, we had to update them. They could care less. All they wanted to know was, are the girls still wearing miniskirts? So, tell where they were. They were in 1966. The single biggest piece of motivational information we could give them was the creation of the POW-MIA flag and bracelet campaign, and the fact that they had not been forgotten. They remember leaving this country in a turmoil that lasted for another decade after the war was over, and they really thought that that was the world they were going to return to. And in a sense it was, but of the 591 of us that were released from Hanoi in February and March of '73, we were welcomed home. 3 million of my colleagues, 2 of which are here, were not. So we let them know that the POW campaign and the bracelet campaign fortified and somewhat strengthened an America that was in a messy state, but it helped congeal, maybe bring to conclusion this 10-year messy war. So I want to thank you folks for all the work that you continue to do. Thanks for dedicating this chair. Thanks for your passion around leaving nobody behind. But most of all, thank you for never forgetting.
Sean, if I could. So I erred greatly in not acknowledging Patrick Hughes. And Ralph reminded me that he has been literally the biggest proponent for this chair of honor. And I remember him calling me out and said, does the agency have a chair of honor? And sheepishly said, well, no, Patrick, they don't. And so Patrick, in his Marine Corps way, said, well, why not? And thank you, Patrick, not only for compelling us to do this, but more importantly, as Ralph mentioned, for doggedly going all over the country to ensure that this chair of honor is rightfully displayed where it belongs, raising the public's consciousness. Thank you.